The busy city park was filled with laughter and chatter as families enjoyed the sunny afternoon. At the far end, near the swings, a small black girl named Maya stumbled, clutching her knee as tears streamed down her face. "Mommy, please." "It hurts, it hurts," she sobbed, her little voice breaking with pain. Her mother, Grace, rushed over, panic etched on her face. Grace was a single mom, working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, and she rarely had time to rest. She knelt beside Maya, her hands trembling as she examined the injury. It wasn't just a scraped knee. Maya's leg looked twisted, and the swelling was already setting in. Grace's heart sank as she realized she couldn't afford another medical bill. Around them, people glanced over but quickly turned away, unwilling to get involved. Unbeknownst to Grace at that very moment, a man named Benjamin Carter was walking through the park. Benjamin wasn't just any man. He was one of the city's most powerful billionaires, the CEO of a massive real estate empire. Though he was surrounded by wealth and privilege, Benjamin carried a quiet emptiness inside him. Years ago, he had lost his wife and unborn child in a tragic accident, and since then, he had buried himself in work, keeping his heart carefully locked away. He rarely visited public places like this, but today he'd come to clear his mind. As he passed the swings, the sound of Maya's desperate cries pierced through the noise of the park, making him freeze in his tracks. Something about that small, trembling voice cut straight through the walls he had built around his heart. Benjamin turned toward the sound and saw the heartbreaking scene. Grace cradling her sobbing daughter, her face pale with fear and helplessness. Without hesitation, he rushed over. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice sharp but filled with concern. Grace looked up, startled by the imposing man standing over them. "She fell," Grace stammered, tears in her own eyes. "I think her leg might be broken, but I can't afford an ambulance." Her voice cracked with shame. Benjamin's chest tightened at her words. Without a second thought, he scooped Maya into his arms. "I'll take care of it," he said firmly. "No arguments." Grace tried to protest, but Benjamin was already striding toward his sleek black car, parked nearby. The drive to the hospital felt like a blur. Maya whimpered softly in Benjamin's arms, while Grace sat beside them, torn between gratitude and fear. Who was this man, and why was he helping them? At the hospital, Benjamin barked orders with an authority that made the staff jump to attention. Within minutes, Maya was in an examination room with a team of specialists attending to her. Grace stood frozen, overwhelmed by the speed and efficiency of it all. When the doctor confirmed that Maya's leg was indeed broken and required immediate surgery, Grace felt her knees give out. "How much will it cost?" she whispered. Benjamin's hand came to rest gently on her shoulder. "Don't worry about that," he said softly. "I'll cover everything." Grace stared at him in disbelief. "Why would you do that for us?" "You don't even know us," she said, her voice trembling. Benjamin met her gaze, and for a moment she saw something raw and painful flicker in his eyes. "Because once," he said quietly, "I was in a park like this, and I wasn't fast enough to save the ones I loved. I won't stand by and let another family suffer if I can stop it." Grace's throat tightened, tears spilling down her cheeks. She realized that this stranger wasn't just a wealthy man, he was someone who understood loss deeply. The surgery went smoothly, and when Maya woke up groggy but safe, Grace clutched her daughter's tiny hand, sobbing with relief. Benjamin stood quietly in the corner, watching them with a strange mixture of joy and sorrow. Over the next few days, he visited often, bringing flowers and toys for Maya, and even helping Grace navigate the hospital paperwork. Grace noticed how gentle he was with her daughter, how his usually stern face softened whenever Maya smiled. Slowly, she began to trust him, though she still wondered what place a man like him could have in their simple, struggling lives. When Maya was finally discharged, Benjamin personally drove them home. Grace's small apartment was cramped and run down, with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. Seeing the conditions they lived in filled Benjamin with a quiet rage. That night he made a decision. The next morning, a team of workers arrived to repair and upgrade the apartment. New furniture, fresh paint, even a proper bed for Maya. Grace was stunned, her hands flying to her mouth as she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Benjamin simply replied, "Because you both deserve better." As weeks turned into months, Benjamin became a constant presence in their lives. He took Maya to the park, attended her school plays, and helped Grace with groceries when she worked late shifts. The three of them began to form an unexpected bond, almost like a family. Grace found herself laughing again, something she hadn't done in years. She began to see the man beneath the billionaire's exterior, a man who was lonely and hurting, but deeply kind. Benjamin, in turn, felt his heart slowly healing every time Maya called him Uncle Ben, and every time Grace smiled at him with gratitude and warmth. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Benjamin turned to Grace. "I want to be part of Maya's life, and yours," he said, his voice steady but vulnerable. Grace's breath caught. She had been afraid to hope, afraid to believe that someone like him could truly care for them. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Benjamin took her hand gently. "I've never been more sure of anything. You both saved me as much as I saved you." Tears filled Grace's eyes as she realized that the man who had once been a stranger was now offering them a future they'd never dared to imagine. Years later, on a bright spring day, Maya ran across a park, the very same park where their lives had changed forever. Her laughter rang out as Benjamin and Grace watched from a nearby bench, now husband and wife. Maya's leg had healed perfectly, and she was strong, joyful, and full of life. Grace leaned against Benjamin, whispering, "I still can't believe how far we've come." Benjamin wrapped an arm around her and smiled. "I can," he said softly, "because the day I heard her cry for help was the day I finally found my family." And with that, he kissed Grace's forehead, knowing that the pain of the past had been replaced with a future built on love, hope, and second chances. As the years rolled by, Benjamin, Grace, and Maya built a life that none of them could have imagined on that fateful day in the park. Maya grew into a vibrant, talented young girl with dreams of becoming a doctor, inspired by the care and compassion she received during her surgery. She never forgot the moment Benjamin had scooped her up in his arms and carried her to safety. Whenever she talked about her future, she would proudly say, "I want to help kids the way Uncle Ben helped me." Grace, too, flourished. With Benjamin's unwavering support, she was able to return to school, eventually earning a degree and landing a job she loved. No longer weighed down by fear of poverty, she began to believe in herself again. Benjamin, once a man isolated by grief and success, discovered the true meaning of happiness through the simple routines of family life. He delighted in helping Maya with her homework, cooking dinner with Grace, and even doing mundane chores that once would have seemed beneath a billionaire like him. It wasn't the wealth or the empire he'd built that brought him peace. It was the laughter that filled their home each evening. On the anniversary of the day they met, Benjamin planned a surprise. He took Grace and Maya back to the park where it had all begun. As they stood near the swings, Grace's heart swelled with emotion. "This place used to be where I felt helpless," she whispered. Benjamin smiled, taking her hands. "And now, it's where our lives started." To Grace's astonishment, Benjamin knelt on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya gasped and clapped her hands in excitement. "Mommy, he's proposing!" she squealed. With tears streaming down her face, Grace said yes, and the three of them embraced tightly. In that moment, Benjamin knew he had finally healed. The echoes of Maya's first desperate cry had transformed into laughter and love, proof that even the deepest pain could lead to the most beautiful new beginnings.